एक मिनट रुक जाओ, रेडी होने दो। चलो ये कर लेते हैं, दिस कुड बी अ ग्रेट इंट्रो।
Hi, I'm Akshay.
Hi, this is Saurabh, and you are listening to the Founder Thesis podcast. We meet some of the most celebrated startup founders in the country.
And we want to learn how to build a unicorn.
So this is August 2012. Farooq and I are sort of walking into this, wedding couture store, and we're like super sort of stressed out because I think this is not a category that we've looked at. I think these go for 3-4 lakh rupees a piece, and we're just sort of out of our depth, right, when we're talking to these guys. So a couple of stores that happened, we said, you know what, okay, this is not really working out. We'll probably figure out our pitch better and then come back. And then it starts raining, and we can't find an auto. And this is August, Bombay monsoons, and there's this one diesel store where we said, you know what, let's just run into the store. We knew of diesel as a brand. We didn't know of the actual brand diesel and how expensive it was. But we'd seen this fashion street diesel products, and we saw everyone wearing diesel. So we said, yeah, theek hai, yaar, koi sasta brand hoega wo. So let's just get in there. We won't be out of our depth there. We'll wait till the rain subside, and then once we get an auto, we'll then go. So we sort of go into diesel, and we're trying to act as though we are trying to shop. And the first pair of denims we see is like 15,000 bucks. Hey guys, my name is Harsha. I'm one of the co-founders of Fynd.
Born and brought up in a Gujarati entrepreneurial family, Harsha knew engineering was his calling, and as an accomplished student, IIT was a cakewalk. But the one thing that IIT gave him was the business bug through the entrepreneurial cell, and while most IITians get a great placement offer, Harsh also ended up with a startup when on campus. He eventually co-founded Fynd, a unique fashion e-commerce portal which brings the latest in-store fashion online. Here is Harsh in conversation with Akshay Dutt, talking about his amazing journey from startup to being acquired by Reliance.
Born in Bombay, brought up in Bombay. I think there was just a 2-year gap that I was not staying in Bombay. I spent about a year and a half in Delhi and about half a year in New York. But otherwise, the rest sort of 30 years of my life have always been in Bombay.
Okay. So you got into IIT Bombay. How did life change after that? Did you stay on campus or you continued to stay with family?
So I think life changed significantly. I mean, after IIT, right? I mean, I think as a person, I'm a very different person today. And honestly, I would be a very different person had I not been to an IIT as well. I think IIT Bombay never had the option of sort of staying at home. I mean, you could always choose to stay at home, but you still had to pay the hostel fees. You would still have a room in the hostel. So, of course, like everyone, we paid the hostel fees and we said, nahi, theek hai, I think, Monday to Friday I'll be here, weekends I'll be at home, and so on and so forth. So, and that was, primarily more for, washing the clothes and doing laundry and things like that,
Yeah.
so, more than anything else. So I would say in the first year, I pretty much came home 3 weekends a month. In the second year, it went down to 2 weekends a month. The third year, it went down to 1 weekend a month. In the fourth year, I think I hardly came home, probably once a month, right? So I think as you get deeper and deeper within hostel life, student organizations, and so on and so forth, I mean, I think you're less worried about laundry more than anything else, right? So.
So how did you evolve in those 4 years?
So I think first year, firstly, I was actually very lucky that having the crop of seniors that we had. In particular, there were about these 4 or 5 seniors whom I was very close to, and the idea was that this campus life, and especially IIT, and this is true for almost all sort of residential campuses across the country, is that the kind of opportunities that you would have to explore yourself and your interests will be very difficult to do outside of these campuses, right? So So I think the first couple of semesters was, me trying to do everything, right? So everything from sports to debating to quizzing, dramatics. I wish I would have spent more time studying, but everything I did in the first year, and that definitely
Were
took a
you
toll.
like articulate and outgoing even before joining IIT? Like, to do stuff like debating and all?
I was. I think even in school, I was the school head boy. I was part of the quizzing team. I was part of the debating team. I was part of the cricket team in school. We reached the district level as well. So I think I was always an extrovert and an outgoing person. I was always someone for whom academics was just one part of my daily routine. Right. I mean, I would have cricket practice probably what I think 4 times a week for the last 8 years. I mean, ever since I was in maybe second standard to 10th standard, right? So
Okay. So you were pretty achievement driven. Like, how did that come into you? Like, was it like in your DNA to be achievement driven? Like, to do so much stuff in school is there's like, maybe one or 2% of people in school do so much stuff.
So, I think I would probably just again, it's all good luck, and thanks to my parents, I guess. I mean, I think it was good luck that I was in a good school which had these sort of activities that you could take part in. Of course, big thanks to my parents to ensure that I took part in everything. I was exposed to those things, and allowing me to actually even pursue that. I mean, I remember that I was also part of this. I mean, there's this speech and drama certification program run by the Trinity College of London that happens, and every year you have these exams that you give in speech and drama or in group communication and so on and so forth. And I was part of that as well. Again between like third standard and sort of eighth standard. I did gymnastics till I was in my fourth standard. Won a couple of gold medals at the city level as well there. So I think it was essentially just here's something that you should try out. If you're good at it, great. If you're not good at it, no worries. If you want to continue with it, no worries, right? So I think it was something like that.
So this achievement orientation continued through the 4 years at IIT. Like, what were the major?
Yeah, so I don't think it was achievement orientation. I think it was more to do with doing different things rather than just one thing to focus on, right? So I never did it to win or to come first, second, or third, right? I did it because I thought that it was cool to do it, or I had fun doing it. So it wasn't to do with hey, you know what, if you do this, you'll come first, you'll win a gold medal, you'll win this. It was nothing of that sort. I mean, even today, I spend at least like 5 6 hours a week playing like season ball cricket and doing net practice even today, right? So, and it's because I mean, there's no sort of tournament or anything, but it's just something that I enjoy doing. I think in IIT, the 4 years, I think, like I said, my first couple of semesters were actually pretty horrible when it came to academics. I mean, in the IIT system, my first semester was like a 6.34 on 10. My second semester was like a 6.9 on 10 and whatnot. But I think apart from sort of pulling that back up and graduating with an 8.2, I think a few things which I did in IIT. I was the debating secretary of the hostel. I was fairly active in the literary arts scene. So things like quizzing, Damushirad, something that we call potpourri in IIT. I think I was pretty involved in that. I was part of the freshman cricket team. I was part of my hostel cricket team. I was actually fairly involved, at least in the first couple of years, with both Mood Indigo, which is the cultural festival of IIT Bombay, as well as the entrepreneurship cell. And actually, in my third year, I was part of the core team of the ECell. In my fourth year, I was the head of the ECell. I had a startup on campus as well. So I mean, it was a mix of sort
Hold
of.
on, hold on. You had a startup on campus. Like, tell me about that.
Yeah, so I think again, luckily, because I was sort of so involved with the ECell on campus, I think I was definitely drawn to the aspect of entrepreneurship, and I think coming from a business family, I think I definitely took like a fish to water the idea of risk taking, building something of your own, and so on and so forth. So right from year 1, 2, 3, I was actually very involved with the ECEL. Year 4 also, I was actually the head of the ECEL on campus. And mind you, this is the biggest ECEL in the country, right? I mean, we had a budget of about 70 lakh on a year to do events and competitions and so on and so forth. So after my third year, every student in IIT, at least in my time, were expected to do an internship in the summer between the third and the fourth year. Funnily enough, I got an internship at an accelerator in Sweden, in Stockholm, and this accelerator essentially had got together about 24 students from across the world. So I was the only one from India. There were two students from Taiwan, about three from Singapore, two from China, one from Brazil, two from Brazil, one from Mexico, two from the US, and so on and so forth. Like, I mean, one from Iran, one from Israel, and whatnot. So we were essentially a group of 24 students, and this is across engineering, liberal arts, MBA colleges across the world. And the 24 of us were actually put into this 2-month accelerator. We were given multiple ideas to work on, and at the end of the 2-month program, we essentially had a demo day to the accelerator organization. And they picked about 6 of us to say, what, we like what you're doing. Why don't the 6 of you guys come together as a team and start this company, and we'll fund you, right? So I mean, they funded us. They took some 60-70% stake in the company.
What was the plan? Like, what was the business that you proposed?
So it was actually called Nova Global. The idea was that, and mind you, this is 2009, right? This is summer of 2009, and I think LinkedIn is just getting sort of launched in a mass way across the world. LinkedIn was actually quite abused by a lot of people, right? I mean, early on. So what we tried creating was some sort of a by invite only LinkedIn, but only for sort of students. And while we definitely provide you a social network to connect with each other and whatnot, we also sort of allowed some of these very very high profile or sort of hard to get jobs that were sort of posted only on this network. So for example, I remember again 2009, we'd got a couple of roles which was part of the chief of staff of Richard Branson, and I mean, essentially a bunch of these entrepreneur in residence or chief of staff roles, but also creating this network of by invite only students and young working professionals to be part of this network. So we went ahead and we sort of started that company. There were about 6 of us. I think 5 of them were doing full time because they graduated. So they were running this out of Philadelphia in the US. I was running it out of my dorm room, in IIT. Um, so yeah, I mean, that was also quite an experience. I mean, my fourth year, I had my BTech thesis. I was the head of the ECEL. I was running this company as well.
Why didn't you just continue to run that company? Like,
I wish I could, but what ended up happening is that in the month of so I did sit for placements. I got a job, but I didn't really I wasn't going to I wasn't going to join the job. I was going to continue with this company only. In about I think March 2019. So March 2010. Uh, so I got placements in December 2009. March 2010 is when my term's about to end, and this company got acquired, right? So I think uh, one of the portfolio companies of the same accelerator ended up acquiring us. I think some of the other 6 people didn't want to really continue with it full time. I was very clear that I don't want to continue working on it from home. I don't want to start my career in an organization where I'm the only one working from an office. So remotely, right? So I mean, I was fine that what, hey, get me to Philly and I'll work in the office with others, and that's fine. But I'm not going to be sitting in Bombay and working alone at the start of my career. So I think overall, then this portfolio company agreed to sort of acquire us, and we said, fine, what, this is great. I think it's a good end to it. I think all of us were sort of accidentally into it, right? I mean, it was part of this
did
internship.
you make money like in the acquisition?
I didn't make money, not a lot though, but definitely, definitely more than my first years of sort of a salary after IIT. So it was a good start, I would say.
So this would have also given you like a major boost in your ability to build an organization.
So, funnily enough, we didn't really build an organization because I was working remotely. So organization building, not as much, but definitely things around, product and go to market and partnerships and things like that definitely was helpful for me.
Okay, okay. What traction had the product got? Like, and what was your role in it?
Wow. So I think I was looking at community building in Asia. I was looking at getting brands and companies again out of India, Singapore, and China. And I was looking at product. I wouldn't say designer development, but sort of product wireframing. I was looking at that. So that was my role, and I think the reason is I was doing it while I was a student, while I had to do my thesis and whatnot, right? I think the other five were doing it full time, so they had much larger responsibility than I had, but it was a good experience. I think organization building experience, I would say, came more from eCell than this particular company.
So, and eCell, you were managing that 7 lakhs. You were like a P&L head.
Yeah, 70 lakhs. Yeah.
70 lakhs.
Yeah,
Wow.
70 lakhs.
Okay.
Yeah, 70. Yeah. I mean, I think our team did a good job at sort of, getting decent amount of sponsorship. I mean, of course, we were a team of 20 people, two of us in the fourth year, about 18 of them in the third year. And, mind you, this is all sort of, voluntary student organizations, right? So I think it was an interesting challenge. I enjoyed it. I mean, of course, I was too naive now that I sort of look back. I think we were more an event agency as opposed to an actually entrepreneurship cell. Um, but I would say that that exposure was also very, very important for me. I mean, it was only through the eCell that I got connected to the VC community, that I got connected to even Sasha from K Capital. My first interaction with him was because of me being in eCell, and look how that worked out, right? I mean. So I would say it was an amazing experience, honestly. I mean, I think being a part of the student organization was just absolutely amazing.
Okay. Okay. So you got placed in Opera that was from campus.
That's right. That's right. So it was like a day one placement, day one slot two placement that I got into Opera for. I mean, funnily enough, I actually got rejected by a company which came in slot one because they thought that I would not take up the job and I would just continue with my startup. So they said, what, there's no point, giving him an offer. He's anyways just going to reject it. Continue with this company. But actually, thankfully, Opera didn't sort of have that one, and they actually gave me the offer, which I could take up after the acquisition, right? So
Hmm, hmm, hmm. And how were those like almost 3 years you spent there? So how were those 3 years like?
yes, I actually spent full time 2 years, and about part time for about 8 9 months. I would say again, great. I think from a learning experience wise, I think consulting is always great. You get exposed to so many different problems. You're put into a client facing role right from probably month one or quarter one. You're looking at problems that you don't have any sort of technical capability on, but you're just trying to
So tell me a bit about what Opera does first. Like,
So Opera, when I joined, was a mix of strategy as well as analytics consulting. We would work with some of the largest companies in the world, and this was primarily in the US and UK. Helping them with things like marketing analytics, organization strategy, risk analytics, and so on and so forth. So I mean, we would be working with banks and large financial services companies, large retailers, and whatnot, and working with their sort of senior leadership to help them figure out what they need to do better in their companies, right? So of course, I was a junior member of the team, but you were still exposed to all the problems that we as a team were looking to solve for that client.
So your role was like crunching the numbers and coming up with some sort of analysis and
My first 6 7 months was predominantly analysis and preparing presentations and structuring conversations and whatnot. But I think post the first 6 months, I was also in a very deep client facing role as well. So I was also presenting to the clients and presenting our findings, telling people what changes we thought needed to be done, what we thought were the issues and whatnot.
So why did you go part-time there? Like,
So I mean, in hindsight, I would say that consulting was the best. Yeah, so I think 2 years we were doing this full time, and this is both me and Farooq. I mean, I met Farooq, my co-founder at Opera. Farooq was also senior from IIT Bombay. He was one who recruited us. He was actually part of the recruiting team from Opera that came on campus. Farooq was, of course, 2 years senior to me, but I think both of us were in Opera with the mindset that, hey, you know what, we do want to start something of our own in life. It's just that we haven't figured out the right idea or the right team to actually do this right now, right? So I think those 2 years while we were working in Opera, we were also very very closely discussing different ideas, different problems that we want to solve and whatnot. And that's where really I think the genesis of our sort of entrepreneurship journey came together. So till about 2012 we worked full time on it, and then both of us had figured out, okay, you know what, now this is the idea that we want to really sort of dig deeper into, and we went to Opera and said, hey, you know what, we're actually quitting because we're going to start our own company. And then Opera, bless their souls, came back and said, hey, you know what, it's fine. We definitely want to support you to start your company. We're not going to stop you from doing that. But I'm sure that at the start, you probably won't be doing everything full time, right? Because you don't have a product yet. You're still thinking about the problem. So why don't you guys still help us out 25% of the time? We'll pay you 25% of your salary, which will always be helpful to you as you start up. And if you feel that now your company is going somewhere, at that time you can leave completely. So I think it was great that the sort of Opera gave us that particular parachute per se. Uh, so we helped them out for about 9 months. We were sort of involved in a couple of client development work.
when you told them we're quitting, you had an idea in mind that what you want to do?
Yes, we did. Yes, we did. We were actually working on an idea in the electronic health record space.
What was that idea, and then what happened to it?
Yeah, so the idea was that I think healthcare data, which is a mix of diagnostics, prescription, as well as sort of both from an inpatient and an outpatient scenario, is not stored anywhere for the patient to get access to, right? I mean, hospitals have that when you're in the hospital. Doctors give you their file if it's a chronic condition and whatnot, but there's no sort of central place where you've sort of digitized all your healthcare data. So that was the idea, was to actually create this central repository of health data on you and your family members, which would be everything from diagnostic tests that you've done, doctor visits, doctor prescriptions, doctor notes, inpatient care, all of those things.
Which is what Practo also started with.
Which is what Practo also started doing. That's right. That's right. That's right. So Practo also started doing that. I think 2.5 months into that, we realized that I don't think the Indian sort of healthcare services industry is ready to actually share this data. I mean, there's a lot of sort of cash billing that still happens in diagnostic centers and for doctors, and they don't really want to digitize everything, and so on and so forth. Which is also one of the reasons why even till today, which is almost 8 years after that idea, right, we don't find a single EHR platform. So we I mean, I'm glad that we sort of moved on from that. It was probably ahead of its time, and even Practo went more into appointment scheduling than actually a proper EHR per se. So we realized within the first 2 months that hey, this doesn't work. Let's think of something else. And this again goes back to the Opera story. So Opera every year had this competition called the Opera Open, where anyone in the company could actually present ideas, and they would have a proper demo day, and the top three would get cash prizes and whatnot. So Farooq and I sort of put some, I think 4 or 5 different ideas we would have put in 2009 in this Opera Open, and I think two of them got selected in the semi-finals. One of them went to the finals, and we ended up winning some, I think, 10 lakh rupees as part of our prize money, right? So, but of course, because it's the Opera Open, the IP belonged to Opera, which is fine, right? Because they're giving the prize money, you're their employee and whatnot. So we quit. We do this healthcare thing, doesn't really work out, and then Opera says, "Hey, you know what? We're not going to do anything with your idea. So you know what? Take take the IP. It's not ours anymore. It's back to you guys. And then we met the senior of ours who actually runs the Avanti centers, right? We meet him for lunch, and he says, "Hey, you know what, guys? You have this already idea that you presented in Opera. You now have the IP of it as well. Why don't you just go and try that out?" And that idea was in the retail analytics space. It was about how technology can play a role in the physical retail space, right? So this is again 2010. E-commerce is booming, but in the brick and mortar retail stores, there's actually no technology whatsoever there. So Akshay is like, "Hey, you have this idea. Why don't you just walk into some stores and talk to them and find out if that works? Brilliant. You already have this idea. Just try that out." So we then abandoned this sort of healthcare idea, and we said, "You know what? Let's just walk into a few stores. Let's talk to the store owners or the store managers, and let's see how it goes from there." And that's how we sort of moved away from the EHR idea onto the retail tech idea.
So tell me more about the retail tech idea. Like, what exactly did you think of as the product?
Right. So the genesis of it happened that I think in the physical retail environment, you pretty much have just one source of truth, right, which is the sales data, right? But even that is more a post hoc data of what the shopping journey has been, right? So I mean, that data is captured at the end of your shopping journey. So we realized that there were not too many sort of these streams of data in the physical retail environment, which allow us to understand how a shopping journey is going on, right? So I would say the kind of analogy in the online world would be things like bounce rate, dwell time, product display page reviews, and add to carts and abandoned carts and things like that. Now, all this data was not present in the offline world. So we said, how do we start creating this data? So we said there were two ways to do it, right? There is, of course, use CCTV cameras. To actually look at what people are doing. But again, this is 2010, and computer vision algorithms or models are not as good at that time. The other was that, hey, you know what? Why can't we engage a consumer while the consumer is shopping? So when you're walking into a store, the store doesn't have much tech. So as a shopper, you're pretty much just sort of ambling around, asking a few questions, trying out a few products. But can we create like an engagement screen in the store where the consumers can do at least say 50% of the shopping journey on that screen? And then because they're doing that on a digital
So
platform,
you capture
that
data.
creates
Hmm.
a sort of data.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Hmm.
So that creates the data stream that we need to understand pre-purchase shopping behavior. So we sort of created mock-ups on an iPad, and we did everything from virtual trials and whatnot, and it was like very very hard coded. You could only do it for the top 20 products of a store and whatnot, in terms of virtual trial. Otherwise, it's like a catalog that you're going through.
You
You can
were
share it
only
with your
looking at
friends on WhatsApp.
fashion retail as your.
We were only looking at fashion retail. That's true. And I think the reason is because I think fashion retail, I think fashion, or I would say non-grocery or non-electronics, were a category which were fairly commoditized. I mean, grocery and electronics were actually fairly commoditized. In fashion, you had a lot of influence over the purchase behavior or the purchase decision during the shopping journey as well. So we said that the largest impact of this data will be in fashion. Um, and I would also say that the reason is I think Kirana predominantly happened through mom and pop stores and not through these organized retail outlets. And I think electronics was again, I would say, predominantly a user doing research on his or her own before coming into the store, right? So that's why we looked at fashion as the category to actually target in this.
So what happened to this? Did you actually build it out and like launch it, or?
Yeah, so we actually built a mock-up for this for the opera competition, in which we came second. We got the People's Choice Award and whatnot. So we had one mock-up ready, and we then took this iPad and started ambling into stores in Bombay to talk to their sort of store managers, associates, or owners. And this and I stay in Santa Cruz West in Bombay. Farooq at that time stayed in Lokhandwala. So I think our senior said, hey, you know what? There are so many of these designer stores on Juhu Tara Road. Why don't you just walk in there, right? You'll get the owner there, also speak to the owner. So this is August 2012. Farooq and I are sort of walking into this, wedding couture store, and we're like super sort of stressed out because I think this is not a category that we've looked at. I think these go for 3-4 lakh rupees a piece, and we're just sort of out of our depth, right, when we're talking to these guys. So a couple of stores that happened, we said, you know what, okay, this is not really working out. We'll probably figure out our pitch better and then come back. And then it starts raining, and we can't find an auto. And this is August, Bombay monsoons, and there's this one diesel store where we said, you know what, let's just run into the store. We knew of diesel as a brand. We didn't know of the actual brand diesel and how expensive it was. But we'd seen this fashion street diesel products, and we saw everyone wearing diesel. So we said, yeah, take होएगा, कोई सस्ता brand होएगा वो. So let's just get in there. We won't be out of our depth there. We'll wait till the rain subside, and then once we get an auto, we'll then go. So we sort of go into diesel, and we're trying to act as though we are trying to shop, and the first pair of denims we see is like 15,000 bucks. Like shit, this is like too much. Let's just go to some other place. Let's look at some t-shirts. So we go to a t-shirt, and it is again 8,000 bucks. And we're like, okay, yaar, theek hai, yaar, chalo, abhi barish ho raha hai. Let's just act and then find our way out once the rain stops. So we're acting there, and then this one person comes and says, hey, guys, do you need help? Are you looking at something specific? Can I help you with something? And we said that, yeah, sure, we're trying to look at these things. And then we start talking to him, and we realize that he's actually the marketing manager for Diesel, who's on his weekly sort of rounders to that store, right? So, once the ice is broken, we tell him, hey, you know what, by the way, with these two guys, we have this idea in retail tech. We're doing research about the fashion market in itself. That's why we thought we'll come in here. And we show him the iPad because we anyways were carrying that mock-up. And he said, hey, you know what, this is actually pretty cool. I think, someone like Diesel could be interested in, trying out something like this. If you can wait for about half an hour, I have my head of customer experience who's actually coming to this store, because one more thing about this store is that they actually have a jamming studio in the basement of the store. So this head of customer engagement is coming with his band to jam in about half an hour. So if you guys can stick around, once he comes, we can show this to him. So we said, okay, cool. We'll wait around, and then in that half an hour, he was taking us through the history of Diesel and what kind of products that are there. And then this sort of head of customer experience comes in, and we show this to him, and he's like, this is actually pretty cool. Why don't you develop a mock-up for Diesel specifically and present it to our brand head whenever you're ready, right? I mean, no stress. We have no such issues whatsoever. You just come and present it whenever you're ready. So we said, okay. We need to design this, so we need a designer on board. So that evening I go to Behance. I put a filter of graphic design and illustrations, and I put a filter of Bombay, and I sort for the popularity high to low. And the first 3 names on that, I look at those 3 names in Bombay, go back to LinkedIn, and then message them on LinkedIn. Right, saying that, hey, you know what, I am so and so. We're working on so and so. I'd like to meet you. And the first guy is actually Shiraman, and he replies and says that, hey, you know what, let's meet at the CCD in Sign tomorrow afternoon at whatever 4 p.m. So then I go to that meeting. Shiram sitting there with a book in his hand, waiting for me to come, and then we start talking, and I tell him, hey, you know what, we have these 2 ideas that we're working on. There's this electronic health record idea. There's also this, sort of this Diesel thing that we have to sort of design up. So we'd love for you to sort of, design any of these which you think you may be interested in. So then Shriram comes back and says, hey, you know what, I don't really like the health records idea too much, but I'll help you guys out with designing this thing for Diesel. Give me a couple of weeks, and you know what, I'll design. And Shriram at that time was doing his master's in interaction design at IDC at IIT Bombay. But he said, hey, you know what, I'll still find time to do this. So then he takes about 10 days. He creates a mock-up of, what this looks like for Diesel. And then he sends it to us. And we said, you know what, that's great. We'll go present it to the brand head of Diesel. So we set up a meeting with Reliance Brands, which actually is the master franchisee of Diesel in India. And we meet this guy called Deval, and we show this mock-up to him on the iPad. And he's like, you know what? I think you guys are smart. I mean, and funnily enough, Deval also had his tech startup, back in Ahmedabad before he joined Reliance Brands. So he's like, I think you guys are onto something, but I don't like what you've done so far. But I like you guys. Why don't you guys take again more time, as much as you need, and come up with something bigger, and something which is sort of more impactful. Kuch bada leke aao, right? Was his sort of feedback. So we again go back, we tell him, okay, give us a week. We'll come back to you within a week. And then we go back, with Sriraman, Farooq, and I are sort of thinking and saying, hey, what do we do? What do we do? A week goes by, and there's nothing much that we do. I mean, it's only incremental changes, right? I mean, so one night before, I don't know whose idea was it, but I think the three of us decide that, hey, you know what? Rather than taking it on an iPad, let's just print these designs out on an A2 sheet rather than an A4 sheet. Let's print this out on an A2 sheet, which is essentially the size of a 32-inch TV, and let's present that to them. So literally he said, "बड़ा करके आओ." तो हमने बड़े paper पे print किया, and we actually go there, and he loves it, and he says, "Arey, this is brilliant, right? This, I want you guys to build this for me. Again, take how much of a time you want, but build this for Diesel. I will give you prime location in Palladium on the ground floor. We'll put this for 3 months, and we'll see how it goes."
Yeah. So this would be like a display where people could do virtual try-on.
This would be a touchscreen display where people could do virtual try-ons. They could check out the catalog. They could see what's in stock, what's not in stock. They could see which other store has that product. They could share it on WhatsApp, on email with their friends. They could do searching, filtering, all of those sort of things, right? So that's what happened. So this was September 2012. Diesel said, hey, you know what? Whenever you guys are ready, show this to us. And then we again go back, contact a few of our juniors who can do this coding for us. We say, hey, you know what? We guys have a project for you. Let's just spend how much ever it takes to actually do this. And then we do this. We go live in the Diesel store in December, mid December 2012 is when we go live in this Diesel store. And for that month, I think all three of us, Farooq, myself, and Shiram, we are sort of the pseudo sales associates in the Diesel store for 3 months, trying to see how consumers are using it. And Diesel likes it, right? I mean, Diesel likes what we've done, but we can't sort of figure out the commercials to work out on it. But while that's happening, we said that this is something that's good that we've got, that we've come across. Let's go raise a round of funding. Let's start a company in this consumer engagement space for retail tech. And that's how at that time it was called Ad Sale, and then Shop Sense. That's how it started.
Okay. So whom did you raise funding from? You used your IIT eCell contacts for that?
Yes. So there were two sets of actually there were three sets of investors that we used, right? So one is seniors from IIT. So this is the whole gang of Zishan Hayat of Topper, Abhishek Jain, and Anil Gelra of Hola Chef and now Snapmint, and a bunch of these guys who sort of Saxena of Hola Chef. So I think all of these guys who have started companies, and they will put anywhere between 1 lakh to 2 lakh rupees in your company. So that's sort of one group of investors. The second group of investors are actually our partners at Opera, right? So people who we used to work with at Opera. There are about 4 of them who say, we'll put whatever 7, 10 lakhs each, right, in your company. We like you. We worked with you in the past, so we know you guys. So that's the second group, and the third group is essentially Sasha, whom I've interacted with through my time at eCell. So Sasha takes one look at us, says, "Hey, Harsh, you're starting something great. Let me know how much I can put in." So there is 3 group of people in February 2013 that sort of cobbled together a 1.2 crore round. And we sort of close the documents, and the money comes in the bank by April. And then we go tell Reliance and we go tell Opera that, hey, you know what? Now we're doing this full time. So thanks for your help. But now we're going to start this company of our own.
Okay. So then what happened after that? Like, obviously you pivoted, but why did the pivot happen?
So 2013 April is when we sort of raised a round of funding. We started building the team, and we then started selling this in-store consumer engagement device product to any and every retailer we could get our hands on. I think what was supremely important is that our sort of pilot product was on display on the ground floor of Palladium Mall in Bombay for a good 3 months, right? So every major brand in the country would have seen that. Every CEO of every major brand in the country has seen that and has used it. And because we were standing there for 3 months straight, we've now spoken to them, right? And everyone is sort of aware of what e-commerce is doing, and everyone's very excited at seeing technology in stores in the retail environment, and they all want to talk to us, right? So we started these conversations. We signed up with Being Human, who gave us our first sort of break in this. Again, there Manish Mandhana at that time, who ran Being Human, was like supremely excited. He was like completely bought in and said, hey, you know what, whatever you guys need. We met Salman Khan. We actually demoed this product to Salman Khan and said that, hey, you know what, this is going to be like this. And the added feature in the Being Human device was that the virtual trying, you can actually do it on Salman Khan. So you can change Salman's shirts and pants and whatnot. So Being Human, then Nike, and then US Polo Association, and Arrow, and Flying Machine, and we got all these clients on board. Right, we got a few clients in Dubai. We got one client in London, and we're starting to do this. In between, we raise a couple more sort of bridge rounds because it's not really scaling up as much as we expected it to. This was a proper sort of software as a service model. We take 10,000 rupees per installation per month, but we charge them 10,000. But that doesn't mean that sort of everyone pays on time. So there were cash flow issues. I think there was definitely pushback. Everyone will keep coming back every month and say, hey, you know what, not 10,000, 9,000, 8,000, 7,000. And then it just became a way in which anyone would sort of use us as an agency and say, hey, I want to build this for me, build this for me, right? And then we weren't really able to create a product or a platform out of that. We were essentially a sort of large screen app development agency. But we still ran that for about 2.5 years. I mean, it worked out well. It was decently making money, but we weren't sort of scaling up as much as we wanted to, honestly. Right? A few things that we've done right is even on this device, you had to show consumers what catalog is available, right? So we would directly integrate into the inventory systems of these brands that will give us access to what's actually available and what's not available in the store right now. And that particular sort of technology that we would invest in is the most important thing that we've done at Fynd over the last 8 years, right? But this is about early 2015, where things are not really working out, in the sense that, I mean, sure, we've got about 120 of stores in which this particular device is there, but not really scaling up as fast as we would want it to. I mean, we remember Nike was a client of ours at that time, and Nike started off with about 5 stores in the first month, and even after a year and a half, they were only scaled up to about, say, 40 out of the 600 stores that they had. Right? So we were like, you know what, this is just, I mean, they had to invest in the device and all of those things were there. So we said, this is not really working out. 2015 was also the time where you had the hyper local delivery companies come up, right? So you had your Roadrunners and you had your Grofers and your Tiny Owls of the world, who are now talking about hyper local commerce, right? So you're buying online, but it's coming from somewhere close to you, right? So Grofers was actually one of the first companies that did that, and Grofers is run by a friend of ours, again a senior from IIT and a colleague from Opera as well. So we said hyperlocal seems interesting. It's something that seems to be picking up, and otherwise e-commerce is all done on a centralized sort of hub and spoke model, where you have these large warehouses that Myntra has and Jabong has and Amazon has and Flipkart has, but no one's really sort of picking up products from the store. And we did this sort of rough analysis, which kind of told us that at that time there were about 20 million Indian consumers online. This is again early 2015. I mean, today the numbers very different thanks to Geo, but at that time, 2015, about 20 million Indian consumers who were shopping online. And actually, we did this rough calculation which told us that 87% of this population actually stays within a 4-kilometer radius of a clothing store. So if that is the case, why are you shipping products from 400 kilometers away, right? So we said, hey, we work with most of these brands. We figure out a way to integrate into their inventory systems. Why can't we run a hyperlocal e-commerce, fashion e-commerce company? And because it's hyperlocal, I can actually give you something within sort of 2 hours, 3 hours. So we were actually the forerunners of Amazon Prime, honestly. Right. I mean, of course, Grofers was the forerunner for all of these
So
guys.
you were planning to build a grofers for fashion, basically.
We actually did build it. I mean, so we said, let's build a Grofers for fashion. Let's build an Amazon Prime for fashion, right? Let's build a Swiggy for fashion, whatever it is. So we will integrate into all the stores that are around you. You place an order, it'll come from the store close to you, so it'll get delivered to you within 3-4 hours. And also, by the way, hey, because it's coming so quickly, and if you want to return it, you can return it right then and there. So the store actually gets the product back within 4-5 hours. So he went to the stores and says, hey, you know what? Why don't you allow them to send 2 products? So rather than only sending a size M, send a size S as well to the customer. So the customer can actually try it, whatever fits them, they can keep it, and then the rest they can send it back. And again, this was at a time where returns and RTOs, which is the case today also, was a big problem for fashion e-commerce companies. And it still is today, but at that time it was one of those big taboos for these e-commerce companies.
So in a way, you were the first one to do the try and buy kind of a thing.
That's right. We were the first ones to actually do try and buy anywhere actually in the world. So October 2015, we launched this service in Powai. So we got 2 malls, which was our city Ghatkopar, and we got Phoenix Market City Kudla, and we said, we will service everything from Sain, Chembur, Kudla, Ghatkopar, Vidya Vihar, Powai, and Mulund, and Andheri East from this area. And then every week we would add more areas to this because we would activate more stores and so on and so forth. So we did this only Bombay hyperlocal thing from 2015 October till about May 2016.
What was the traction like?
We did about 300 orders a day. We would do an average order size of about 2,000 rupees. I would say 40% of those orders were try and buy orders. About 90% of the orders he would deliver the same day. Even for someone who placed an order as late as 8 p.m. also, right? I mean, imagine you place an order at 8 p.m. and at 10 o'clock you're getting something at your house. So we were doing that very well. And then 2 things sort of happened, right? So one is the delivery partners, which is the likes of Roadrunners and all. They all shut down because I think all of them were born to serve food category, which was at that time Tiny Owl and Swiggy and whatnot. I think food just didn't have the absolute margins to support these delivery companies. So they shut down. And the second is consumers from all over the country came and told us, hey, you know what? Even for the same brand, which we find on Myntra, you actually have better stuff than Myntra has. And that's when we realized that predominantly on these marketplaces, brands are selling old season merchandise as a way to liquidate the stock that has not sold in the store, right? But what we were actually showing, we were showing fresh fashion directly from the store to the consumers. So consumers would come and tell us that, hey, you know what, I'm calling from Pune. I know you're not active in Pune, but I actually can't find these pair of Steve Madden shoes anywhere else on Myntra or Jabong. You guys are the only ones who have it. I don't mind waiting for 3 days, but you ship it to me to Pune. I don't mind paying you 50 rupees extra, but you ship it to me to Pune. So these 2 things happened, and we said, hey, you know what? If we can do that, sure, we will stay true to the fact that we will always deliver from the stores, but let's deliver everywhere, right? I mean, even if someone from Pune wants it, sure, give it to them. They're willing to wait for 3 days. That's okay. How does it matter? So June 2016 is when we said, even though we will do hyperlocal, we will also do intercity as well, right? And then we started just growing our footprint of stores that we fulfill from just Bombay to all over the country. So like today we fulfill from about 130 cities across the country, and we've got real-time access to inventory across some 10,000 stores in these cities. to an extent where we're actually India's largest fashion supply. I mean, on a daily basis, there are about 45 million pieces of inventory that are synced to our system. This is the largest fashion supply that's there anywhere in the country. So 2016 is when we sort of opened the floodgates, and we started sort of doing this, sending this. Consumers could shop. We'll always pick it up from a store close to them, and we'll deliver to them. And so we use third-party logistics to deliver. And then again, 2016 November, the same Deval from Reliance Brands again calls me and says that, hey, you know what? I see what you're doing in the sense that you guys are sending stuff from the store. Why can't I do this for my stores as well? So the problem statement he told me of is that a consumer walks into my store today, and anecdotally, about 15% of the times, the consumer actually doesn't find the right size or the color that they're looking for, right? And today, we know that it's available in some other store. We tell the consumer, hey, you know what? You come up after 2 days, or you go there and you pick it up. But I don't think anyone does that, right? I mean, only in absolute emergency cases will a consumer come back after 2 days and say, hey, you know what? Sure, I wanted this.
You lose the consumer basically.
I lose the consumer, right? So he came and told me that, hey, what if we were to use your system where the store guy can place the order and it'll get delivered from the next closest store directly to the consumer. The only caveat is that I want this only for my brand. So when the store associate is using it, he should only be able to see Steve Madden. He should not be able to see Nike also and Aldo and the other brands that are there. So we said, okay, we'll create a special login for you on the Find app, and that login will be mapped only to one brand. And that way, you can just see one brand, right? Otherwise, you can do anything else, everything from cash and delivery, prepaid. I mean, everything else works the same, right? As Find.com is. So we said, okay, this works out well. So funnily enough, we actually agreed on this the day after my wedding in November 2016. So they well attended my sort of wedding reception, and the next day we again got onto a call. And we said, okay, sure, let's just close this. And then in end of Jan 2017, we launched something called Find Store in the Steve Madden stores, in about 20 Steve Madden stores across the country, right? Where you're essentially doing e-commerce transaction, but inside the store. So the order, instead of being originating at home of a consumer, is being originated at the store, but everything else is still the same. Right? So within the first month, the numbers that we saw was absolutely astonishing. We were contributing about 9.5% of store sales through this in-store product. And that's a massive amount, right? And for a business, think of it this way: we've done an e-commerce transaction without the customer acquisition cost completely, right? So we said, hey, this is an amazingly profitable business, right? We're doing decent amount of sales. Why don't we do this with other brands also?
And how would you be charging? Like, would you charge as a percentage of sale price?
As a percentage of transaction? Yes, absolutely. Because we said everything is the same, right? Sure, on Find.com, because we acquired the consumers, I will charge you 30% commission. But on Find Store, because the consumer is walking into your store, but I still have all the other costs, right? Of the platform, server, logistics, customer support, all of that cost is still there. I'll charge you 20%. So I'll give you a 10% off in that, but I'll still charge you a commission on transaction, right? But that's profitable business. Right? So we said that, you know what, Find.com is what the consumer is shopping online. Find Store is the product with the store shopping for the consumer. So Jan 2017 is when we started Find Store. And funnily enough, if you actually think about this use case, it actually goes back to the same old ShopSense use case that we had in Being Human and Nike and all, right? Where the only difference is that, one, it's not customized. Two, we're not charging on a per month fee and then going behind retailers to give us a monthly fee. And three is that it's an online transaction that we are capturing the payment first, cutting our commission, and then remitting the rest back to the retailer. So in effect, we solved the three issues that we faced with the ShopSense business model in the Find Store business model. Right? which allowed us to get scale, which allowed us to, not having to do a lot of these customizations and whatnot. So Jan 2017, we said, okay, along with Find.com, we're also going to add Find Store as a separate product. So the backend remains the same, the operations remain the same, the logistics remain the same. It's just that the front use case is different.
In March, you raised funding, Series A funding. I think in March and May you.
That's right.
So how did that come out? Yeah.
So I think when we were shifting from ShopSense to Find, which was in October 2015, we went back to our investors and said, hey, you know what, ShopSense as a business model is not really working, not really scaling up, and so on and so forth. But you're seeing all the hoopla around hyperlocal. So we want to do that. So why we want to pivot the company, but of course we would need more capital because now it's a consumer play. So we will require $1 million of capital. So we went back to the same investors. They were very, very supportive. They recapped the company as well to sort of save on the dilution of the founders as we embark on this new journey. And we also got a few new investors added also to this, right? So Kunal Bell and Rohit Bansal from Snapdeal also joined this round in sort of August 2015. Right, so K Capital put in more money, as well as Kunal and Rohit came in as well, and we sort of moved to Find. And then when this Find Store thing also happened, we went out and raised another round of funding. This was led by IIFL, where we said, hey, you know what? Now this is becoming more so a retail tech platform, but it still has the same dynamics of an e-commerce company. But there's this one business line which is definitely profitable and growing well. And we want to sort of do both, which is the e-commerce as well as this Find Store product as well. Yeah. So then, so IFL was like, you know what? As long as it makes money. Okay. So then, so we go to IFL. I mean, we of course go to all the investors, and then IFL says, hey, you know what? This is interesting. I mean, we don't usually invest in such companies, but I like you guys. You guys are thinking of it the right way. So you know what? We'll put in money, and we also got a bunch of other co-investors as well. So we had Rocket Ship, we got GrowX, we got Venture Catalysts, we got Artha Ventures. I think everyone sort of it became more of a sort of party round at that time. I mean, not in terms of valuation, but definitely in terms of the number of investors coming in. And we had about, I think, 85 investors on the cap table as of that round, right? So that's when sort of the $1 million round happened in 2015 when we were pivoting, and then this $3 million round happened when we also introduced Find Store. So then this is Jan 2017, and we've just discovered that this is new business line also. And we start growing that business line as well, very well, right? And then we grow that all through 2017, and then we come on to 2018, and one of our old clients, which is Being Human, who's been live on Find as well as Find Store, calls us and says that, hey, you know what? Why don't we also integrate this into my website? So Being Human is just launching beinghumanclothing.com or .in or whatever, and they said, hey, why should I only run this through my warehouse? If you're able to run this on Find.com, can you help me create the same linkages and you manage the backend for me, but on my website where I want customers to order from stores, I want to deliver from my stores and whatnot. So we say, you know what, why not? Of course, it's your customer acquisition cost. My e-commerce margin I will still keep, but it's yet another different front end. Nothing changes for me on the back end whatsoever. So sure, we'll help you out. Right? And we call that business, open API brand websites, where now brands who want to run their own websites on the Find platform to take advantage of our omni-channel capability can also go ahead and do that. So Being Human in, I guess, August 2018 became the first brand to actually go live on this Find platform.
And this would again be store to consumer, like no warehouse.
Store to consumer.
Okay.
Absolutely, right? So we started this conversation with Being Human in about, I think, Jan 2018 or so. And we said that, hey, you know what, if that's happening on Being Human, now let's just go all out. Why can't this also happen on a Myntra, Amazon, Google Shopping, everywhere else also? Right? So by Jan 2018, what we were thinking is that we have this omni-channel platform capability, which we've built very well for the back end, where it integrates into stores, does fulfillment from the store and whatnot. And on the front end, there are these multiple different demand channels from which we're getting consumers to shop. Whether it is Fynd.com, whether it is the brand's own website, whether it is Fynd store inside the store, or whether it is on any of these marketplaces per se. So we reached out to all marketplaces, all large companies, and said, "Hey, you know what? You don't have the kind of supply that we have." And they were also looking at that because they could see that we've got store supply, and they have old season merchandise and whatnot. So they said, "You know what? Yeah, sure. Let's figure out a way to integrate." So we kicked off integrations with Myntra, Jabong, Amazon, Google Shopping, Paytm, all of these guys. Right? And then some of them actually came back and said, "Hey, you know what? We like what you're doing. Would you be willing to sort of take investment from us also?" And that's how the conversation with even Google sort of started. And then in 2018, Google ended up investing in the company.
How much did Google invest?
So Google invested. I can't tell you the number honestly. I think close to about $10 million was that round that we ended up doing with Google. And I think that round was actually pivotal for us because it was the round where we were very clear that what we're building is this omni-channel platform, where we have a lot of capability on the back end integration aspects, and we're going to open up this platform for anyone to actually build commerce on top of it.
Before you go further, like tell me what was your revenue split like in 2018? Like you have these 4 different businesses, you have your own.
So I would say Find.com was always the biggest one because I would say that that was the longest one. I mean, we ran that the longest, right? And I think in the other businesses, which are sort of B2B businesses, I think the initial scale up just does take some amount of time because you've got to go brand by brand, website by website, marketplace by marketplace, do these integrations. So I would say in 2018 it was still very much Find.com. Was probably 80% of our revenue was still Find.com, right? But the other 20% was fairly profitable in itself, right? That's number one. And number two is that we could see green shoots there. So we knew that we were moving in that direction, and just that because of running Find.com B2C, we were out of capital because it takes capital to actually run a consumer business with the kind of customer acquisition costs that are there in this country. So we just needed more capital, but there were enough proof points to show that the non B2C businesses also work. So we had like at least like 4-5 brands on each of the other products. Also, they were giving decently 200-300 orders every day, and again, like I said, all of those orders were profitable. So everyone was very interested, very excited because this was probably the only profitable e-commerce business in the country at that time. I mean, not Find overall, but it's the non-Find.com businesses which were fundamentally e-commerce businesses. Structurally, they were e-commerce businesses, and they were profitable. I mean, right from the first transaction.
Okay, so if you integrate with Myntra, then would the brand delist and go only through you on Myntra? Like, how would that happen? Because brands also list directly.
So the way it happens is that for the so the way Myntra deals with it is that, of course, the brand is free to give it through both, right? But the products which are an overlap, right, which is probably 15-20% of the cases, Myntra would actually sell their seller products or their warehouse products. But there was a fairly good 65 to 70% of products which didn't have an overlap, which only we had. Right. So there it was just us.
And you were the fulfillment, you were responsible for fulfillment, like the product listed.
Not in Myntra's case. We were not responsible for it because, I mean, Myntra had its own sort of, SOP. So we said, sure. I mean, see, fulfillment for us was always a pass-through cost, right? I mean, we weren't really adding value with fulfillment. We were just sort of closing the loop with it, right? So we said, okay, sure. If you want to do fulfillment, please go ahead and do it. No problem with me.
So, but Myntra has a warehouse model, right? So then in case of fulfillment, you would send it to the warehouse.
No, we don't. No, we wouldn't. We told Myntra that you can't, that, we're not going to do that because it's just, wasteful spending. I mean, think of it that I'm a customer in Bandra and I've ordered something and, it's actually in the store in Bandra. I'm not going to send it to the warehouse of Myntra in Bhiwandi and then come back to Bandra. And it's just absolutely wasteful. So I told Myntra, we told them, and they actually agreed to it as well, because they would then pick it up from the store in Bandra. So then they changed their logistics in a way where they structured it saying that, hey, it's not just going to be originating from our warehouses. You also now need to pick it up from every other place also. And I think they had already started on this journey, because outside of Myntra warehouses, they also allowed drop ship from a few select sellers as well. Right? But this is of course sort of accelerating dropship to a different level altogether.
What do you mean by dropship? Can you define that?
Yeah, so dropship is that I have the product in my warehouse, and I am shipping it directly to the consumer without sending it to Myntra's warehouse. But I could be using anyone's delivery partner. Doesn't really matter.
Got it. So, like on Amazon, some products are like Prime or fulfilled by Amazon, and some are not.
That's right.
So those would be
Yes,
dropship.
the others that are not.
Okay.
Yeah.
And what is your arrangement with Amazon? Like, is it similar or?
So Amazon is similar. So in Flipkart's case, we do the logistics. In Amazon and Myntra's case, they do the logistics. In TaraClick's case, we do the logistics. So I mean, it differs from sort of marketplace to marketplace. I think we are okay either ways, honestly, right? I mean, we don't have any major hiccups or sort of hang-ups on actually doing it ourselves, as long as we still get real-time tracking enabled on those shipments. We're okay with it.
Okay. So let's move ahead in the story. 2018, you raised $10 million, and 80% of your business is still from the B2C portal
Sure.
of Fynd. So what happens next?
Okay, so yes, I think as 2018 goes by, we're scaling up all businesses now. Of course, B2C scale is faster because of the fact that there are less moving pieces. You aren't reliant as much on external entities to also scale up with you, and so on and so forth. So that scale up happens decently fast. So B2C, of course, scales up tremendously. It's also because of the fact that we just received the funding. So we were a bit more sort of loose-fisted in terms of spending money for customer acquisition. So that of course scaled up. Fynd Store also scaled up, and I think when we exited 2018, we were still looking at that 80-20 split. It's just that the absolute numbers were much bigger for both. Right? And then so I mean, all through 2018, I think we were always talking to our investors, and we said that, hey, you know what? I think the current B2C model can't really work, because I mean, you can't have 20 companies in the marketplace. I mean, in the market, everyone burning capital to acquire a consumer, to acquire the same consumer, and forget about different consumers, right? So unless we figure out any other way in which we can build a profitable B2C business also, we're giving ourselves 1 year to try as many things as possible. And we're giving ourselves a budget of, this is going to be our experimentation budget. And if it works, brilliant, we continue. If it doesn't work, then 2019 we again come back to rethinking how is it that we want to go ahead with. Right? So what ends up happening is that in 2019 per se, we were still not able to figure out a profitable B2C business, right? And that sort of led to us saying, you know what, now we're going to dial down our B2C focus. We're going to stop spending money. I mean, the platform's still there. People who are coming on, if there's organic traffic, it'll continue, but we're not going to spend money in acquiring consumers per se. We're just going to, focus all our efforts into growing the other B2B parts of the business. And this is marketplaces, brand websites, Fynd Store, all of those things. Yeah. So that's how we ended up, going ahead with it. So 2019 is, when we sort of switched gears, and we said that. So I mean, it's yet another change in focus, but I mean, those businesses are all there. It's just a factor of, how much effort are we putting into what.
And how did the Reliance deal happen?
Right. So then, I think early 2019, actually not just early 2019, probably about late 2018, I think Reliance started talking to us, and I think, funnily enough, it was because of a presentation that I gave to their Gen Next incubator. on how to build a company and how to build an organization. And I think Jio was already launched by that time, and now they were looking at what next beyond just telecom. This whole whether it's commerce, whether it's content, whether it's education, whether it's core tech IP, all of those things they were looking at it. And I think commerce was one such section that they were focusing on. And I think Geo also recognized the fact that I think they couldn't build commerce the way Amazon and Flipkart had built it. They wanted to do an omni-channel approach. At the end of the day, Reliance Retail is still the largest retailer in the country. They've got so many stores, they've got so many stock points. So they wanted an omni-channel first e-commerce play for Reliance as well. And that's how they reached out to us and said, hey, you know what, you guys have built an omni-channel play. There are a few companies, but you guys are the only ones who have done it at scale. You guys have done it well across multiple business lines. You've done both B2C, B2B. So you guys have a fairly good understanding of exactly how to go about doing this. So if you guys are interested, we're interested in figuring out a way for us to work together. And by work together, we mean you become a part of us and then build this out for us. So end of 2018 is when those discussions started, and I think by that time we were also coming out of the fact that our B2C experiments haven't really panned out in terms of a profitable business per se. So if the B2B aspect is great and it's growing and it's profitable, and also the fact that Reliance is the largest retailer in the country, plus I think by that time we'd all seen what Jio could achieve. We were definitely enamored by the fact that hey, an opportunity to work with Reliance was brilliant, right? I mean, it would be scale and ambition that none of us would have seen before. Of course, we all had that, but we wouldn't have seen that ever, at least for the next 5-6 years. But we were able to. I mean, we've got this opportunity to get a ringside view of this and also participate in building this up, right? But of course, we were very clear to them, and they were also very clear to us that we want you guys to be in there. We're not buying your company. We're not acquiring you for whatsoever. We want you guys to help us build this. And for that, if we need to take a majority stake, if we need to be the only other person on the cap table outside of the founders, we're willing to do all of those things. That's how we would want to do it. So first half of 2019, I think the contours of this got sort of finalized. Mid 2019, we actually consummated this transaction. All our investors took an exit, but the company still remained independent. There were a few things, few requests that we had as founders to Reliance in terms of, hey, we want to continue running our business the way we want to do it. We still want to be independent. Of course, we will help you build these things, and you have all right to come and tell us if you're doing a shoddy job at it. But otherwise, outside of that, it's our company at the end of the day, right? I mean, we're still running that company. So Reliance was more than happy and gracious to actually allow us to do that, because I think what they realized is the fact that more than just the technology, they also wanted the kind of culture and work ethic that we brought to the table, right? And that's why I mean, it was absolutely amazing sort of conversation to figure out how this was work. And that's why we as founders also went in saying, hey, this is great for us. This is great for the company as well. And by the by, they're also willing to give cash exit to all our investors, and everyone makes money. I mean, it's not a small exit. It's not a everyone. I mean, the worst person made like a 30% IRR, right? So it's not a bad investment for anyone by any shot whatsoever. Of course, it's not the 100x or the 50x that VC funds aim for. But given the far and few cash exits in the country, I think everyone was still pretty much saying that this is still good money for everyone.
Mm-hmm. Did you also
like the earliest
some of your stake?
A little bit,
like,
yes, a little bit we did.
Okay.
Yes, a little bit we did, because I think we just, I think Reliance was actually fairly open to us saying that, hey, you know what, we realize that you guys have spent 8 years in this. You guys have been taking paltry salary out here, and if you guys need some liquidity, we're happy to give you some.
So what have you built for Reliance so far, like the Reliance e-commerce play in that?
So I can't give specifics whatsoever, but definitely what I can tell you is I think I think our capability of building an omni-channel platform, that's something that we're leveraging for Reliance.
Like I think Reliance Digital, the online e-commerce site is omni-channel, so that would have
Yes.
come through your
I mean,
experience.
I can't say so much more than that right now, honestly.
And Reliance is okay with you continuing to also be present on Myntra and
Absolutely.
like
See, I think that was one of the things that we told them that listen, even though you are a majority investor, we are not looking at it as the end of the road for Find or for us as founders, right? I mean, we believe and sort of Reliance agreed that we've barely scratched the surface when it comes to retail tech and omni-channel per se. And again, both of us agreed that we are a far number one in the omni-channel space today. Um, and as long as that business makes sense, that business makes money, has a long term capital creation and a value creation angle to it, why would we not pursue that as well? And as long as we're able to balance out and not ensure that our work is getting affected because of multiple priorities, that's fine. That's fine. If we're able to juggle it, um, they're okay with it. Second thing is that we were very clear that there will be absolute Chinese wall in terms of data sharing between Reliance and Find. So while of course everything that we're doing for Reliance works with them, but what we're doing for any of the other brands, any of the other marketplaces, do not go to Reliance at all. So Reliance have they have no access to any of that data whatsoever. Yeah. And that was also very important because I think everyone realizes that Reliance is one of the large players in this segment, competing with the same sort of Flipkart, Myntra, Tata Click, etc., etc. And it was important for us to actually ensure this so that it doesn't hurt Find or its other clients right now that we work with.
but would this continue? I mean, eventually, the competitiveness between Amazon and Reliance, for
I mean, think
example.
of it this way, right?
Hmm.
Think of it this way: as long as this company is still independent, um, this is well within all sort of documents that this will continue.
No, as in the sense that would, for example, Amazon continue to integrate with you? They may decide, okay, we don't want to support.
Think of it this way, right? I mean, think of it this way: today, Unicommerce is a Snapdeal company, but they're still working. I mean, Amazon and Myntra still works with Unicommerce. There was a time where GoJavas was a Snapdeal company, but everyone else used GoJavas as well. So I don't see why not, right? I mean, I think share ownership is very different from operating principles.
Got it. Okay. Who are some of the competitors to you? Like, who would provide a similar end-to-end going
Yeah, so
online service
so
to a
there's a
brand?
company called Arvind Internet Limited, which the Arvind Group has had formed. I mean, it's still there. And then there's another company called Ace Turtle, which was a bunch of ex Arvind and Reliance fashion executives who launched that company as well. Uh, I think they were both launched by fashion brands, so they're sort of fashion first companies. But we're probably the only sort of tech first company solving it as a tech problem as opposed to anything else.
How would your size compare to these, like Arvind and all these? Like,
No, I mean everything in terms of clients, we are like significantly bigger.
hmm, okay, okay. And so when a brand signs up with you, you
Hmm.
essentially are like their one-stop shop for everything e-commerce, right? Like be it through
Right,
store, be it through marketplace, be it through Find website, be it through the brand's own website,
right,
everything is handled by you.
right,
So like
right.
when a brand goes to Myntra through you, then how much does the brand get left with? Because Myntra would take a cut, you would take a cut.
So our cut is very, very minimal.
Okay,
It's more a payment gateway version per se.
okay.
I think what doesn't change is that the brand still needs to work with Myntra, and Myntra will still work with the brand. Think of us as just the platform that's serving those listings to Myntra.
Have you like moved beyond fashion now, like into other areas?
Yes, we have. Yeah. So I think we've definitely started with some amount of furniture, furnishings, kids equipment, toys, all of that we've started. Very soon we'll be starting with electronics as well. So I think I mean it just sort of goes down to we see the margin dynamics of a particular category, uh, and then that's it.
Okay. Okay. So electronics will be pretty cutthroat, right? I mean, like they're very well established and
So you know what? We don't really have to worry about it, right? Because we're just the platform serving it. I mean, we don't do the customer acquisition. We don't do any of those things.
So, for example, someone like a Philips could decide to work with you for all their
Yes,
end-to-end e-commerce
yes,
requirements.
that's right.
Okay,
That's right.
okay, got it. Okay, okay, cool. So, what has been your like biggest takeaways through this journey? Like, top two or three takeaways which you think would help other founders.
Yeah, so I think one thing we've been very lucky with, and not all companies have been there. I mean, there have been others also. Is that I think the three of us as founders have stuck together for the last 8 years, right? I think that sort of longevity and working relationship per se, I think has definitely helped us a lot. I think that's number one. Number two is that if you've again heard the journey so far, while we've been working in the retail tech space since day one, there are a bunch of different things that we've done, right? Some have worked, some have not worked, and those sort of things. So I would say one big takeaway for us was experiment on anything and everything. But of course, once you figure out something that works, go behind it. But don't stop at that. I mean, what we started with Diesel as Shop Sense is back on as Fine Store 3 years later, right? So I mean, it's just all over the place. But nonetheless, I think the problem that we're still solving is how do we get technology in the physical store, right? I mean, it started off with being more consumer engagement, but it's gone from consumer engagement to even transactions and fulfillment and consumer engagement also. So so I mean, so it's the same sort of problem that we're solving. I think the solutions are sort of different and many, but the problem to be solved is still the same thing. So I would say that would be my sort of second one. And I think the third one is that we've been very lucky to have investors to support us through this journey, right? I mean, any investor can get really frustrated with so many changes that are happening, so many differences in terms of this. I mean, it's almost every year we had something new. Right? You can sort of say that, oh, you know what, this is one more trick that these guys are trying to prove. Yeah, but they've been with us. I mean, we had like a fairly long list of investors, and definitely giving them a cash exit with decent returns is one of the proudest moments of our lives as founders, right? So I would say that has been the third thing. And I would say all of our investors, right? I mean, all of them would attest to the fact that they loved being a part of our journey.
So, I want to ask you how for two of these. So, you said all three co-founders sticking together. How did that uh, come to be? Like, is there like a guide on how co-founders can stay together? Hmm.
Yes, I mean, see, I think first and foremost is that I think there needs to be a mutual honesty in terms of the motivation behind doing this, right? I mean, it's fine that the three of us could be starting up for different reasons. I mean, one of them could be for money, one of them could be for fame, one of them could be for glorification of the ego, whatever else it could be. Right? I mean, it doesn't matter. But as long as there is honesty and there is an open communication behind these motivations, and there is a long term plan to it, right? I mean, it would not have worked if one of the three of us said, hey, you know what, this is just a 5 year thing for me. It would not have worked for sure. But all three of us were on the same page that saying that, even if we have to do this for the rest of our lives, we will do it. Right? So I would say that was like super important. And I think the second is I think all three of us definitely have had our ups and downs, right? I mean, there have been times where relationship is strained, better at other times, whatnot. I think that's just part and parcel of any relationship. But I think we never once put ourselves ahead of the company, right? I think even in our fights, right? Even in our disagreements, the company always came first, right? So that helped a lot.
What kind of salaries were you taking for the first couple of years? Like,
No, so I mean, very, very low. So I think first year was zero. I think second year was probably more like 5-6 lakh rupees a year, and then at every funding round it would increase by 30% at every funding round, right? But yeah, that's pretty much it. I mean, it's just that. Of course, now it's far more sort of mark to market, where someone of my batch have similar responsibilities. It's sort of marked to that right now, but up until that time, it was still pretty much under by a large margin. So it was never for salary. This also goes back to the fact that because I think the three of us and our families weren't really counting on our income to run the household per se, right? That's why we were able to again take those risks. So we knew that चलो ठीक है यार 2 महीना salary नहीं आया ना तो problem नहीं है अपने को मतलब हो जाएगा. All three our wives are working. They were getting decent income. Families were fine. We didn't have to send money back home. So I think those things were taken care of, right? So I think that was very, very lucky for us.
So the second how I want to ask you is, how did you get your investors to be so loyal to you?
So I think I think that is all down to communication, honestly. So till about the Google round, I would say, which is 2018, I would actually send out an email every month to every single investor. Right? I don't care if the investor put 1 lakh in the company or put a crore in the company. That same email with the same data points would go to every single investor. And there would be an absolutely regimented frequency to that email. The 5th or the 7th of every month, I will send them updates of the previous month, a few lines on what we're working on this month, and these are the 2 to 3 areas where we need help from you. And I think this transparency ensured that across the 3-4 years that the earliest investors were part of the company for about 5 years, every month they would know what we were up to, every single month. And I think that was like very, very key. That was extremely important, I feel, right? I mean, today I am probably angel investor in about a dozen companies. Probably only 1 or 2 are keeping me updated with what they're up to every month. And in all fairness, it's those 2 companies whom I would go out of my way to help if something comes out. I mean, of course, I would be helping other companies also, but I would really get the context of their help much better.
So your journey as an angel investor, when did that start, and what is your thesis as an investor?
So I think it started 2018. 2018 is I think when it started, and I think the thesis when it started was purely to give back, right? I mean, we had so many angel investors on a cap table. A bunch of those were essentially seniors from IIT who had started their own companies and had invested in us. Some of those companies they got an exit. Some of the companies they had to shut down, whatever it is. But they still supported us, right? And I think the first few investments that we made were again in juniors from IIT Bombay only, who had actually started their companies, came to us predominantly for advice more than anything else. And we said that we like this team, we like what they're building, and you know what, hey, can I invest 1-2 lakh rupees in your company? So it started off with just being that. I think there is definitely probably 50% of the portfolio is IIT Bombay juniors or whatever, juniors, batchmates, 1-2 seniors, things like that. But it completely began that way. And I think now, thanks to the liquidity that Reliance was generous to give us, I think it's sort of amped up a bit in the last few quarters. But even there, the thesis is more to do with, hey, this is a good team. I like them. I like what they're doing. And if I can help with, whatever 2-3 lakh rupees, sure, why not?
How do you define like this is a good team? Like, what do you look for?
It's difficult, but I've actually written these things down. So I mean, there's sort of 5 things that I look for in a company when I'm evaluating a company, right? I think 2 of this have to do with sort of founders. No, actually 3 of this has to do with founders, and 2 of them have to do with the market in general. And this is like early stage companies that I'm talking about, right? So I think the 2 things about the market that I look at is, one is of course the market size, which is the absolute size of the market, the growth potential, and the competition in the market, right? So I mean, that for me will define the market size. The second thing that I want to look for in the market is the depth of the problem, right? So how well is this problem understood? If I have a solution for this problem, how easily is it going to get adopted for? I mean, is this going to require a lot of education? Is the time now? Is it going to take 3-4 years to do it? So I'm saying these are the 2 things that I look at in terms of the market scenario. And I think the 3 things that I look for in the founder per se, I think one is the founder's personality themselves, right? So are they a hustler? Do they have the curiosity and the learning capability? Do they have the ability to attract good people, right? Do they have a fundraising ability? Do they talk well in front of investors? Are they able to sort of capture an investor's interest? And their sales and storytelling ability, right? Are they able to sort of, you know, absolutely crisply communicate, what is it that they're trying to do? So I would say these are the few things that I would sort of look in a company. Of course, I don't expect every company to have all of these things, but if someone has, two things which are very good, third which is like okay-ish, fine, I'll still go ahead and do something there. But that, and like I said, this is purely for early stage companies. I think these sort of metrics or areas would change as there's more data to look at within a company. But I don't really invest in sort of anything post a Series A stage at all. I mean, it's usually a seed or at most a Series A. Yeah.
So, what next in terms of the technology you're building at Find? Like, what can we
I think,
expect to see?
yeah. So I think there are two areas, right, of growth. I think one is the existing business lines. I think we need to grow those. So get more brands, get more clients, get more marketplaces integrated onto that, get more customers. I think that's one part of it. I think the second part is, what are the kind of new age technologies that are sort of redefining the way shopping is happening, right? So looking at computer vision, looking at augmented reality, virtual reality. How does beauty shopping work in the age of AR, right? Or how does in-store consumer behavior understanding change in the day of using CCTV footage to understand that? So I think these are the two major areas of sort of work that's happening.
That was Harsha talking about setting up and running Fynd. If you'd like to avail some great offers on apparel and fashion, log on to fynd.com. If you like the Founder Thesis podcast, then do check out our other shows on subjects like marketing, technology, career advice, books, and drama. Visit thepodium.in, that is thepodium.in, for a complete list of all our shows.